Okay, so can everybody hear me? I think we're ready to get started. Bill, can you just confirm that you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent. All right. This is CDNI, CDN Interconnect. Thanks for coming, everybody. Phil, you want to go next slide, please? So this is CDNI. I'm unable to be there, so we're going to try something new. We're going to try remote sharing. Francois also could not make it to Prague this time, so Phil has graciously agreed to sit in for us there. I think Blue Sheet should be going around. Did we get someone to take minutes and a volunteer?
We don't have anybody to take minutes yet. Can somebody volunteer for that? Anybody?
Anyone?
All right, we got a volunteer for minutes, and I already got a driver's ride.
Excellent. Then I think we can get going. Let's go next slide, please. This is the note well. Everybody should note well the note well. You've all seen it before. Contributions are governed by the RFCs listed, and your IPR is governed by that as well. So if you haven't read it, please go read it. Next slide, please. Okay, this is our agenda. We have a very short agenda today. I will give an update on where we are. We haven't met in a couple times. I think last time was Berlin last year. So we'll update the document status. Then Phil is going to tell us about the updates to URI signing. Frederick, I assume he's in the room, and he's going to talk about HTTPS delegation. And then we set aside a little bit of time at the end to see if anyone has any interesting things to bring up with respect to new work. And then after that, I know this is your last session of the day, so we will try and get you to dinner quickly. All right, next slide, please. So these are all of, oh, this is the non-updated version. There's a typo in there. RFC 6770 is not correct, but these are all the RFCs we already had prior to Berlin. Next slide, please. And these are all the RFCs that we have published since Berlin. Great job to everybody, all the authors, and Alexi, who's not in the room, who helped us get all those last three through. So we're doing pretty good. Next slide, please. These are the milestones. We have completed all of the milestones except for URI signing, which Phil is going to talk about in a little bit. Next slide, please. Since last time, there were 3 errata filed against the triggers RFC. The Streaming Video Alliance Open Caching Group has been looking at CDNI as a basis for their protocols. And so they've been reviewing most of our documents. They did find some issues in metadata, which we caught before publication. They found and provided some comments to Phil on URI signing, and they recently were reviewing control triggers and found a couple of typos in there. And so I believe Rob has confirmed those on the list, that the changes look correct. So we will go ahead and push those through unless anyone else had any comments on them. Next slide, please. URI signing is our big thing left. If everyone recalls, we decided last time to go with JSON Web Tokens, and Bill's going to talk about that in just a second. Next slide, please. On the non-working group milestones that we've been tracking, rate pacing, we still haven't gone gotten much traction on yet. The CDNI HTTPS delegation, Frederick's going to talk about. He has an updated draft, which is talking about, in lieu of the LERC discussions and ACME discussions, some thoughts he has on how to do HTTPS delegation within the CDNI context. Next slide, please. And then, as I mentioned, the Streaming Video Alliance has been looking at CDNI interfaces. They have discussed in their draft some additional metadata that they would like to see. And so they have not submitted anything, but we are expecting that they will submit a draft at some point with some more metadata that they think is useful to everybody. Okay, next slide, please. That's it. This is our agenda. If anybody would like to bash the agenda, this is your opportunity. Otherwise, we will go ahead and let Phil talk about URI signing. Phil, I guess you can, you have to control the slide, so you can just present from the chair.
I got a remote, so.
Oh, excellent. And I'm going to turn my face off.
All right. So I want to give you guys all an update on URI signing draft. Basically what's new since Berlin, since that was our last meeting. So in Berlin, we all agreed to move to JWT from our custom format. It actually made the document 20 pages smaller. Was leveraging existing standards, so it's going to require less review. We're not going to have to go through a crypto review on it. And there's plenty of existing implementations of JWT that we can use, so we don't have to expect people to write a new parser for our old format. One thing about this is before Berlin, we were told that we can only have one query parameter to get off my lawn each. And so having a base 64 blob of a JWT is not actually a regression, although that's brought up a lot of times as a critique of the draft. So that was the major change from 9 to 10. I don't remember when we even published 10. So then we had another draft 11. We broke the claims out into their own sections. We added a CDNI-B claim. This is a version claim so that we can do upgrades in future documents and be able to distinguish between versions of the JWT. We had to create our own namespace for this, talk to a JWT expert. As Kevin mentioned, we had the Streaming Video Alliance review as well. I presented to them on a video conference, and they gave a lot of good feedback. Some of the things we changed, we added a URI hash container for sub, so the subject. So when you make a JWT for a particular URL, you have to have the entire URL in it. And that was kind of big and unwieldy, and they didn't like that. So we created a hash element that you can basically hash the URI, and as long as the hashes match, it'll validate. Also, the JWT header is the same at the beginning of every JWT, or it can be as long as you're using the same signing parameters. So we created a metadata header so that we could pass that out of band to make the JWT even smaller. And also the CDNI-V claim that we added, we changed it to be optional and assumed it to be one if absent. So at least for the first revision of this spec, the CDNI-V won't be in there, or won't be required to be in there, but if we ever update this to a version 2, it will have to always be there. We also specified that we must use URL encoded form of URI when comparing. And Kevin gave a very large review, and I went through and made all the changes that he requested. And then we did a draft version 12, which is the current draft version. And the big thing we added to this was HTTP adaptive streaming. This was something that we had in a separate draft for a while because there were some IPR concerns, and the working group decided that that was resolved. They offered us to use it under good terms, and so we merged it back in with the JWT. We had 2 new JWT claims that we had to create for that. So there's now CDNI ETS and CDNI STT. Just in case people don't remember about the HTTP adaptive streaming, that's the ETS is the amount of time that gets added to the next token when it's chained, and STT is how the token should be passed. And right now, I think the default value is only cookies. So we already have some feedback that we got about changes that should be made. So this is going to be another revision of the draft. So it was requested that we have a CDNI SCT registry so that we could have other values in there. So right now there's only cookies, but the MPEG Dash working group wants to add more things to that registry. And rather than having to have something that updates an RFC, we're just going to have a registry so people can add more stuff to it. And also there was some confusion about key usage and how you can distribute keys and why we should be using symmetric versus asymmetric. And that was actually covered in a paragraph in the original draft that got removed during the great JWT changeover. So that was added back in. And these are both open PRs against the GitHub repo that houses the draft. So if anybody wants to review them or has any other issues that they'd like to see changed from the latest draft, it would be great to create a PR there. So I want to know if anybody has any comments on this or questions on this. And really, I feel like after maybe those additional 2 PRs that it is ready for working group last call, but I want to know what you guys think. And if you don't think it's ready, what do we need to do to make it ready? Because this guy's been around for as long as I've been part of this working group, which is a couple of years now. Anybody? Even like a thumbs up would be great. I see 4 thumbs up. 5. All right.
All right, good.
All right, well, I think
I'll just chime in here. I think it's had a couple of good reviews. I did a pre-Shepherd review, which was large, as Phil mentioned. The SVA guys reviewed it. Ben's reviewed it. The authors have reviewed it. I think we're pretty good. I think once you get the updated rev out with the last changes you want to make, I'll start the Shepherd review and we can start the working group last call. Unless there are any objections. No objections. All right, then Frederick, it's all yours.
Hi. So this draft proposes an update to the CDNI interface. The idea is to take it into account.
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
Sorry. The idea of this draft is to take into account HTTPS delegation mechanism that the IETF is working on. So we submitted this version that had some objects to the metadata interface to support the ACME Star draft that has been recently adopted by the ACME working group. And it is dealing with short-term automatically renewed certificates. This proposal, in fact, provides the DCDN with information about credential renewal that the CA is producing on behalf of the UCDN. So in the Star code flow, we are focusing on the bootstrapping phase. between the UCDN, which handles the star proxy Acme client, and the DCDN, which is the star client. So in the bootstrap phase, we mainly deal with how to prepare the Acme star mechanism. For instance, to get some for the CDN for the DCDN to get some information about, let's say, the star proxy or the CSR request. All the next steps are in fact are related to the star API. So we propose the metadata interface object. So you can see here we have two new objects. First one is a secure delegation, which indicates between two CDNs which is the delegation method. So here we have, for instance, the Acme star delegation methods. And we must also advertise for which path pattern and host match the delegation will apply to. The next object is the specification of the Acme star delegation method. So we mainly provide some information about how to trigger the Acme star delegation. So those two objects can be still discussed, of course. This is only a proposal, and I think the CDNI working group should work on it. So for the next steps, we plan to add support for ICAR subsets if the draft is adopted in TLS working group. That is likely to occur. And we also want to discuss other delegation solution for CDNI, such as OOB or even potentially LURC. And another step would be to identify changes on the other CDNI interfaces, such as the control interface, like for instance to force the renewal of certificates. And the last item would be to, as I said before, to discuss the bootstrapping phase using CDNI metadata interface. So that's it.
This is Sanjay. Just one quick, I think I just noticed at the very beginning of your presentation, if you can go back, just for clarity for any reader that is reading it, the sub-bullet where you say provides the DCDN, I think you meant star, not start. So I just want to make sure that that's clear, so that anybody reading it, understands that we're talking about the star and not start to be confused with. Thanks.
Typo.
Yeah, that's just a typo.
Any question?
I have a couple of comments. I sent some comments to the list about the metadata objects themselves. I think there's more in there than is necessary, but we can discuss that. But with respect to the subcerts, do you see that as something that should be combined with Acme, or as something that is completely orthogonal to Acme and thus would warrant a different draft? Or do you see all these methods as needing to be together?
I think subsets would be quite different from Acme star. Yes. So it would need another object. to my
Right.
Yeah. Kevin, at this step is preferable to you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear?
Okay, yeah. We are not opposed to merge object later, but at this step is preferable to keep each delegation solution separate.
Okay, that's fair. So you want to update the draft and then have separate sections with different metadata objects for each of the different methods.
Yeah, on a registry to accept a new one in the future, if any.
Okay.
So one proposal could be that the CDNI working group adopt this draft as a working group draft.
I'm not sure that it's quite ready for that point. I think we need to possibly have another iteration on this, refine it a bit. And if you are going to add additional things like subcerts, or I don't remember, there was another one, or lurk, that would be something very different. Are there? Go ahead.
Yeah, for what I know from Iker, the subcert his solution is still under works, but they should post a new version before the next IETF. So for the next meeting, we will have two objects, one for the star Acme approach, and another for sub certificate.
Okay.
This is Sanjay. Just to add a little bit more onto well, I think the important thing is that the subcerts deals with the delegation in a very different manner. So I think based on what has been published, the draft, we should probably in the next iteration here, because we probably will not wait until the next draft comes out. What we can do is that make sure that we add, as we understand from the draft, and recirculate our updated draft in this working group, so that at least we can make a decision about whether that work seems like something that we want to pick up. Thanks.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I'd just like to see that filled out a bit more, so that we can get an idea of what's involved.
Okay.
I guess so if you guys can do another rev, and then we can look at it. I haven't really thought a lot about how this fits into our charter. We may need to talk to Alexi about that, and modify as necessary. But I think at this point, it's looking good, looking in the right direction. But let's see what it looks like in the next rev.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kevin, do you hear me?
Sorry? Yep.
For clarification, so are you going to ask now to Alexei to update the charter of CDNI? Or are you going to wait until the next IETF meeting?
I am going to go ahead and start a conversation on what we would need to do if we want to extend the charter. But I would like to see the next draft before we decide to do so.
Clear. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
So we have the agenda back. Perfect. We have reached the end of our scheduled agenda. At this point, if anyone else, as long as we're talking about the new work, we will probably have to recharter for anything beyond URI signing. So if anyone has anything else they'd like to discuss, the mic is open.
Okay. Rachel from Highway is coming up, and she's going to speak.
Okay.
Sorry, we're trying to, just wants to use the projector.
As we all know, as the video industry developments, the 4K, 8K, VR, and AR, they all requires much higher throughput and bandwidth, and also lower latency. For example, by 2020, there will be like 500 million family users using 4K TV. And also for the optimal VR network, the performance, the bandwidth requires about 3 gigabits, and the latency is about less than 8 milliseconds. And also that video, it is emerging and developing very fast. So it also requires much higher demand on concurrency, continuity, and latency. So facing all these challenges, some CDN developers, CDN service providers, and operators currently we are trying to bring the CDN downward from the backbone to the metro network. Next, one of China's biggest CDN service provider, they propose a kind of concept community cloud, which is also which means they brought the deploy downward the CDN nodes from backbone to the metro network to reduce the backbone bandwidth and also and also the lower latency. British Telecom and also France Telecom, they also have some kind of plan to bring down the CDN loads. So because the operators, they have rich central office resources in the metro network, so it can be some ideal is to of the CDN downward. Previously, it's the CDN node. Sorry. Previously, the CDN nodes just locates very highly at the backbone, so maybe we can consider to download them to the metro, which can utilize the operator's central office resources. So on the other way, CDN downward also conform to the operators, the cloud trend of central office resources. Okay. Thank you. So different from current operators, CDN, especially for take the IPTV market, for example, it's typically closed and vertical. So we propose some kind of concept to horizontally decoupling the CDN network into CDN core network and the CDN access network. The CDN core network focuses on the upper advanced CDN ability to which is very strongly related to the contents, and also the CDN access network. Its basic ability provides basic ability which is irrelevant to the contents. So generally speaking, what we are proposing is a 3-layered CDN architecture: the CDN SARS, CDN PARS, and CDN ARS. So, which is very much similar, sounds like the cloud computing. So, the CDN SARS folks providing the advanced ability on services like the user interest forecast and hot contents delivery. And the PARS level, it provides general contents delivery capability. And for us, it provides computing and storage resources. So combining PARS and ARS, we can provide some kind of basic platform, which is operator crossing, which means we can have some kind of information resource sharing and open interface or open API between them. So both the CDN service providers and the CDN and also the operators, they can get some kind of benefits from this kind of architecture. For the CDN service provider, they can focus much on the upper layer advanced service. And for operators, they can utilize the central office resources, which is currently not so utilized highly efficiently. And also for operators, they can reduce the backbone investment, which is caused by the very strict requirement as the 4K, 8K, or the UHD industry development. So it is some kind of both the technology innovation and also business model innovation. It needs tight co-work with CDN providers and also telecom operators. So that's why we are here to present this kind of idea, since all of you, you are just the right stakeholders. So thank you for your attention and questions.
Sanjay Mishra, so I just wanted to ask, what exactly are you looking for this group to do here at CDNI?
Yes, we think that currently the CDNI previously you have some kind of work to try to do some interconnection between CDN service providers, but we think that it's not sufficient enough. So I think to enlarge the whole CDN industry space, so such as the new emerging application needs like the ultra high definition video industry, and also like IoT, smart city, etc. So we can discuss together how to enlarge the market space, and also to utilize many current resources, and also to discuss how to cooperation. So maybe we can consider for CDNI, our suggestion is that we can consider this kind of whether this is meaningful for all of the CDN stakeholders. If that's if you are interested in, we can have a further discussion, and maybe it may be some new topic or new direction of the CDN. So as for CDNI working group, maybe it's like maybe the next page, or maybe we can recharter the CDNI working group. Yeah, that's just our suggestion. So we would like to hear your opinions and feedbacks. Okay.
So, is there anyone else at the mic?
Yeah. So I have one question. Does your solution reuse a CDNI interface, like the metadata interface, or the trigger interface, or the...
Yeah, maybe we will consider the existing interface and also including what CDNI has already done. But we first we think that it's like a business model innovation, which at first all of the CDN stakeholders, we should get some feedbacks from operators like you and also CDN service providers like Akamai. Okay. Yeah, so yeah, current CDNI work, they work, we must consider that, including. Okay.
So Michael speaking. I simply said, are you trying to solve a business model problem with a technical solution?
I think both. First, the business story. I think the story must make sense. Then there must be many technologies like the transportation or routing, maybe. Yeah, currently I think the most important thing is we make consensus on this kind of idea.
Okay,
I'm going to insert myself here as chair. So I don't think designing business models is what we're here to do. But if we have a technical need or a solution that we can develop, that's something different. In terms of whether or not this applies to CDNI, I think what we need to see more of, yes, we can recharter if we find something that we want to work on, but if this is all intra-CDN, it's clearly out of scope of CDNI. We have always said that the CDNI interfaces can be used internally, but we are not focused on that usage. But if you wanted to put together a draft with a use case that describes how to use CDNI, I think that would give everyone a much better idea of what it is you're trying to achieve, and how, again, like Emil said, how it works into the existing CDNI interfaces, or what enhancements may be needed. Similar to what we're looking at with HTTPS, these are based off of the existing APIs, and we're extending them to do something else. We can certainly extend them to do something else, but I think what we need here is a more concrete understanding of what that interface you think is going to look like, or what it is that CDNI can provide.
Yeah, I see what you mean. That yes, we think that this is a great opportunity here, since we have CDN service providers and also the telecom operators, and I think CDNI itself maybe it's not break the CDNI original principle. So yeah, I think our idea is not breaking or not going far the other direction. I think it's like much deeper interconnection, or much deeper, yeah, to build the cooperation between the stakeholders.
Okay, I think it would be interesting if you wanted to put together a draft and submit a draft with a use case and how it relates to CDNI existing or what enhancements you would be looking for that could help push this particular model. And that way the working group could evaluate it in a more concrete manner. So I would encourage you to write a draft and submit it to the list.
Write a draft, and you mean the internet draft, or yeah?
Yep.
Okay. So we will. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, Michael Ying from Huawei. Yeah, I think the first, I think the next step for us is discussing some use case and problem statement. To submit a draft to here to let CDNI to check is there anything new needed to do in this working group. Okay. And for here, I think CDNI we need to in the following. We need to focus on the technology, for example, to check whether is there any something new beside what the existing protocol is defined here.
Okay. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I jump in here real quick and ask if everybody's signed the blue sheets yet?
Because there's some people in the back. There's one floating around back there.
And does anybody know where the other pen is? Because I have another blue sheet up here without a pen that I could pass around. All right. Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything they would like to say? If not, thank you everyone for coming. We will get you out to dinner, have some goulash, and we will see you in Singapore. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.